Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. I thought we'd do some repotting today. But first of all, we need to go and find some things. My notes are, as you know, I lost a lot of my notes. Let's just make this bigger so that we can see what we're up to. Somewhere in here there's a make it bigger thing. Is that it? Zoom. Yeah, that'll do. We should be able to go about there. That's better. Yeah. Right. What I've got here is a lot of information that was lost, and some has been refreshed. The bit off to the right hand side we don't need to worry about. All we need to worry about is this column here, repotted. So I'll just go down through there. If it's in brown, it means it's mounted. If it's in black, it means it's in a pot of some sort, plastic pot, and it's okay for now. If it's in this turquoise colour, then it's a holy clay pot or equivalent, open plastic basket or something like that, but not So what we're looking for is something odd, or a date in a long time ago, which there won't be many because I lost that information. Now here we've got an unknown repot date, and it's in red, which means it needs paying attention to. But over on the left hand side you can see in purple it's a new plant, so I've only just got it. So that will be awaiting new roots because it's a Cattleya type, as will the one underneath. So both of those in red could be contenders. They will go in holy clay pots or be mounted, one or the other. But if they haven't got new roots coming, then I won't. And then there's another one down here, Cattleya type, Epicattleya. Same position there. I don't know when that was potted. So we'll leave those for now. We may come back to those. You can see there's an awful lot of unknowns in here. If they're in brown, they're on a mount, so the date doesn't really matter that much. I just have to keep my eye on the bark and make sure it's not breaking down. The Delicatum was done in 2019. That can wait till next year when new roots come. That's why it's still in black. It's not an urgent thing. There's one here that says 2018. Yes. That needs looking into. I don't update these very often. The two nobly types in pots, the two really large ones, again, they could do with doing, but I'm not doing them now. Again, I'll wait till next year when the new growth starts and a new root system is about to be produced. And that's normally either during or just after flowering. So they can wait a bit longer. They're in bark. It's not like it will have broken down yet, which is why it's still in black. Now we've got a red one here, again, over to the left. It's a new plant, so we won't worry about that yet. Yet, he says. There's a 2019 one there. That's my Dendrobium alexandriae. What are you doing looking like that? Get up there. Thank you. It should be at the top of the box, not the bottom. Right, sorry, distraction. I like to fix things when I see them, otherwise they just get left. So that unknown is a new plant. We won't worry about that. So you can see the sort of thing I'm looking for here is either an old date, like there's some 2018 dates here. These are Masdevallias. They need turning into red because the chances are they're in moss. Now, I've got a feeling that the notes are out of date because I've got a feeling I redid Copperwing and actually put it in moss. And I didn't do it that long ago, but we'll change those to red. They need looking into with a date like that. That is Restrepia. That's one of my giant Restrepias, I believe. No, that's one of the little ones. That's Hannah's. Both of hers will be 2018. They need doing next year, but I'll put them in red now. Just as well do this while I'm at it. And that can go in there and in there. So we turn those red. Apart from that, what have we got here? Miltonia spectabilis and the Miltonia. I've been calling that Morliana. I think it's Morelliana, to be more precise. The spelling's going to stay the same. Anyway, those are relatively recent purchases. They haven't been repotted, so they're unknown. Now, I want to do those simply because I don't know what they're in, and they could be in the cocoa fibre, they could have a moss plug. There are all sorts of reasons why I want to get those out of the pots. The Regnellii, the other really big one that came from Burnham's, I know that had been recently potted. So that was potted this year sometime, and it's in Burnham's bark. So that can stay where it is. There's no problem there. These two, I think we'll look at. They're giant plants. I think we'll take a look at those. So there's two. And then we've got this little one in here. That's still in flower at the moment, but again, I don't know what it's in. But it came from a good grower. The chances are it won't be old media, but you know, there we go. So we've got two so far. My Roeslii came from Burnham's. I don't know how long that's been in that pot. I don't know how on top of things they would be in their growing areas. You know, there were probably around a dozen of these plants that I chose one from, you know, along with lots and lots of other Miltoniopsis. You'd probably be looking at quite a few days of continuous effort to repot that lot. So I do wonder sometimes how often they repot them. Nonetheless, they would have gone into good media. What have we got down here then? That Memoria, Donald Yamada. Yeah, we'll have a look at that too. We'll have a look at that. So that's three so far. And then there's the Cambria type, Miltonia type that had the big purple flowers on. That's four. Both of those, again, speciotic plants. So we don't know what they're in. They might be in bark, they might be fine. Unlike a certain individual on YouTube, I don't continuously tip things out of pots and replace the media. I do it when I think it's necessary, not every couple of weeks. I only take a plant out of a pot when I believe it's absolutely necessary. I don't disturb roots. I leave them I leave them be, basically. But what we're looking for here is potential old media, you know, that shouldn't be left too long, where they're unknown. I think that'll do. That was four, wasn't it? There's the Beallara. That's a large plant. And then there was these up here, wasn't there? The Morelliana and the spectabilis, the two Miltonias, possibly. Yeah. So the two Miltonias, possibly, because they're unknown. That's two large plants, two, and then there were two more, weren't there? The Beallara there and the Cambria. That's four large plants to do. So there'll be a massive amount of potting material, and I'll be using the bark I got from Burnham's as a basis for what they're going to go in. They'll probably, because of what they are, they'll probably all go in the same thing. They might need a pot check. Well, they will need a pot change because they're not in clear pots, and I like clear pots. So that's what I'm going to be up to. We'll do what we usually do, get everything out of the pot, take a look at the roots, give them a quick tidy up, pending a run under the tap and a possible spray with hydrogen peroxide, depending on what they look like. I don't do that every time. I do that when I think there's a reason. It's become expensive, basically, to just use for the sake of it. So we'll give that a go. And then we'll probably have a second session where we get them in their selected pots and or mounts. Yeah, I doubt if those will be mounted. They're a bit big. But who knows? There might be like a side growth or something that would easily separate that could go on a mount. Yet to be decided. Right. So that's that bit.
Okay, so something a bit different to start the video with, and you'll probably notice a hell of a difference in the sound because the first bit was recorded using the laptop's built-in microphone, which is not very good. Whereas this is now back to the camera. So we selected 4 plants, they're all large, and this is the get them out of the pot sort of thing. This is the Miltonia spectabilis, and we do need to keep the tags with these because they look a bit similar. Right, so now what we've got here is basically a bark mix. So apart from this being a bit dry, it was deliberately left dry, too dry in fact in this case, for the type of plant. Shouldn't get that dry really, totally dried out, but nonetheless I'm suspecting there's going to be more than one plant in here. We've also got some buried pseudobulbs. If you look at the level of the pot, look where this pseudobulb is. Yeah. And there's a slight smell of mushrooms, a little bit fausty, but nothing's gone off here. This could have stayed in this pot a while, but it's right on the edge of the pot. You know, the latest growths were right on the edge of the pot and lots of aerial roots dying back. So better to get on with it in this particular case. Now, are you going to fall in too? We've got a climber here, so it's going to have to be dealt with and possibly some of the older parts discarded. I'm trying to find good pieces that will form the basis of a new plant. So that's a good piece there, 3 good bulbs in a row, including a new one, and a new one will form from there, but they don't go together because this one comes from round here, so that's the base of the plant there. Yeah, that looks a bit better. I'm trying to follow the rhizomes here. It's going to have to come in 2, I think, and it naturally comes there. Yeah, I think that's one piece. That is a good sized piece, and there are 2 leads on it, so there should be 2 more new growths to come from there, plus it's got a bit of backup. These back 2 may well come off, but I think we'll start there. And let me just get my secateurs. Why tear when you can make a clean cut? Also means I'll need some alcohol because I'm doing more than one plant. So if we cut there, so that's it's actually joined there as well where that buried pseudobulb was. Right, so now we've got a good piece. Very dry roots, they need hydrating properly, which they'll do once they get the new media. I don't need to get every bit of bark out because it is just bark. But what I am going to do is get that rhizome trimmed off, like that. Come on, off you come. That's the old part of the plant. Right, there's our new growth here. Tucked away under the sheath, which needs removing. Hidey holes for bugs, and in this particular case it will force roots upwards. They will automatically go aerial, like that. That's how they go. And once they start heading upwards, you've got a job to get them to turn down again. So it's better to get at them before they grow. Right, so we've got a new growth here. Already started. That will produce a new growth soon, which I suspect is inside there if I have a look. Yep, there we go. Love it when a plan comes together. So that was a working leaf, but very little of it, so it can do without it. It's better to get that in a position where it can produce new roots down into the media. Now what are we going to do with these back bits? Are they of real use? No, they're not, because they'd end up having to be buried. So we'll take those off as well. So that leaves us that piece. That should be okay. 2 new growths starting, both at approximately the same height. So that will do. That's piece number 1. Pot for that. What have we got left? Looking for new growths again. So here, highly likely. Not necessarily. Yeah, there it is, just starting. So sheaths off, roots downwards. So that's a very embryo growth, but it will grow. Now we've got, that's come off on its own, so that's separate. That's coming off because it would only have to be buried anyway. So we can bring that up to there straight away. Now, so that other this one needs coming off as well. I'm going to have to bury it otherwise. So that's just going to leave a 2-bulb plant with a new growth. So that's one to grow on rather than. So it's got enough roots. You know, it's only 2 bulbs, and you can see it's a climber. So that now needs potting like that, over at an angle. Yeah, and then when this new growth grows, it'll go straight down in the media. You do occasionally on an Oncidium type get the older bulb to shoot as well. Basically it will have to go at an angle like that. All my bread's kicked in. Wonderful. Got a loaf on the go yet again. That's one reason I'm out here. Right, so that's 2 with their label. I'm going to have to use the 4 corners of the sink. I'm just going to break off because I'll need to sterilise these. I may need them again. Okay, that's one done. Let's move on to this one. This is a much smaller compact plant. This is the Beallara, and this has a new growth in progress, and it looks like it's in bark. So the chances are this is okay, or not too bad. It looks like a mix. Oh, we've got the solid. Oh, rats. Oh, not too bad. See, that's been potted on twice. Once now, so that's this loose stuff on the outside, and then behind that we've got this cocoa fibre shell stuff that's been put on. Yeah, and then inside that we've got the solid plug from when it was a young plant, inside which will be a mass of dead roots, no doubt. Still, these are mass produced. It's got some new roots just starting under my new growth here, so that's good timing there, which means I'm not quite so worried about damaging the older roots, although some of these new roots have gone down quite far. So around this side of the plant we're relatively safe to hack, and what I need to do is get this solid mass of old roots out of the way completely. So that's a scissors job. There's my new roots. We don't want to whack them, do we? Right, that's that old solid mass out of the way. I probably won't do too much more. New roots coming. Manky sheath off, even though I doubt if roots will grow from there. And I'll run that under the tap to get the rest of this peat away from the base of these pseudo bulbs so that they're clean at the base. And that will do. These old stumpy bits here can just stay, they won't do any harm. I'll say I don't want to get too close to where those new root tips are because they're fragile. 3 or 4 or 5 even. So we've got good new roots coming on that, and that I'd already done a label for that, so that goes in another corner of the sink, although that does look like quite a different plant. That's 2. Next we've got whatever this one is. This is This is the intergeneric, so it was just Cambria. Yeah, so 3 strong new growths on this one. So what have we got in the pot? What we've got in the pot is peat cocoa fibre type stuff. Not too old, so not broken down yet, and a good root system, very good root system. And what we should have either now or very, very soon is a new set of roots from these growths around here, unless they've already grown, in which case we have to go careful. Yeah, there are some roots that have already come out from these new growths, so those are the ones I've got to work with. There might not be any more, so we need to go careful here. So we're not looking for new growths here, we've already got them, and we've got 3. So I think this plant will pick up and progress quite quickly. It's got one old bulb round the back here that can come off, and we've got a solid mass of roots there again. There's a dunk. Right, so we're only going to take this bit off. And then I run under the tap. Yeah, there's a few dead ones in this centre part, but it's not too bad. It's not too bad at all. And some peaty stuff clinging onto the roots that will wash off under the tap. Yeah, not bad. Not a bad root system. All 3 growths are, so we've got 1 growth low and 2 here. This is a nuisance, but we get round it by just tipping it slightly. Yeah, so it won't be too bad. And then it's just a matter of making sure that it's not buried to any great extent, or that the media around the base of it dries fast from the surface downwards, which is the trick I play on it. Yeah, so I can have media halfway up the pseudo bulb. As long as it's chunky stuff, it'll dry in a day. It'll just evaporate off the top of the pot, in which case the bulb doesn't get soggy. Right, that's a nice root system. Very nice root system. I'm going to take the bottom bit off. I know some people don't like the idea of trimming roots, but when you get a big branching root system like this, it encourages it to branch by trimming. It will allow me to get it in the pot better. There we go. Every root that's been trimmed will now branch back on a system like that. You need to go careful. Not all root systems look like that. You have to take it at an individual plant level. So that's a good one. That will progress nicely. And the last one. You're trying to get out of the pot already, aren't you? This is the Morelliana. Yeah, this may not be the true species actually. It's got a very strange label that's a hodgepodge of a label, quite honestly. It says Miltonia spectabilis, variety M.HYB. So what are you saying? Are you trying to say that Morelliana is a hybrid of spectabilis? Because it's not. So this is not necessarily the true species. But if it's not, it's a flipping good approximation because the blooms are spot on. Right, highly likely we've got 2 plants here. If we haven't, we soon will have. Because it's heading off in 2 completely different directions. Now this is in bark, so we won't have any problems with the roots as such, you know, rotting and all that sort of stuff. There may be plugs in the middle, but it's definitely 2 plants. So now where are we going here? What we've got here is the latest growth, And what we've got here is a growth with 1, 2 new leads. And just about in time with that sheath before the roots start going too skywards, even though they have started there that way. So growth area here, round here, new growth. That one's a little fragile. I'm going to leave that for a bit. Is there a second one inside here? The other one had 2, didn't it? There's an embryo there. I'm going to take it off anyway. That might encourage it to grow. Right, so what we've got here is a back bulb, a growth that's bloomed, a growth that's bloomed, and 3 new growths. That's my plant number 1. And it's falling apart at that point anyway. So that's plant number 1. That can come off there. That's plant number 1, and new roots will follow, and the few that are there are enough to keep this going for a bit, because there is good stored energy in here, not shriveled, here and here. So these new growths could progress quite a long time without any input from the roots, in this case. That's not always the case, but in this case. So 3 new growths there. Jolly good. So that's plant number 1. That should push on nicely now. That's the other corner of the sink. Doesn't get these muddled up. I'll put the label down there now. Right, now we've got to look at what's left. This is useless. So we're coming round to... This looks like a weak new growth that's already underway. I'm not sure whether that is a new growth on a new growth. This area here is being a bit funny. This one, however, over here looks normal, so the chances are the embryo new growths are tucked in behind here somewhere. Yeah, there they are. 1. Be careful sometimes, because by tearing the sheath you end up tearing the new growth away as well, so don't go too mad with it. And there's the other one down there. So that looks like it's going to produce 2. This is an unknown. Great big fat bulb behind them, no shrivelling at all, and if I keep this one I've got a climber. If I take that one off I haven't, so that one's coming off there. I know that seems like a lot of wasted plant there, but I'm interested in this growing on well and filling up a new pot with new roots and these new growths and blooming. Now that doesn't really look like a blooming sized plant now, does it? I can assure you it is. Once these growths are fully matured, it's going to double the size of that plant and quadruple the root system. So that's more than good enough. And none of those need hydrogen peroxide. They were all fine. There's no rot. We haven't found any crappy media. Sorry. Language, Roger. We haven't found any poor quality media. This is all okay. And there's only a faint hint of mushrooms. So it's not broken down. It's not really old or anything like that. We didn't get any solid moss plugs in that lot, which is good. And some of those have got very good root systems. See now here, that would grow on. If that was potted, it's got roots. If that was potted, it would produce a new growth. But probably only 1, and it's not blooming size. So it would then have to grow yet another growth on top of that. And I've already got 2. You know, there's a limit. It's all very well saying, but you could grow them for other people. Don't you think I got enough to do? Just doing my own stuff. And nearly every time I repot one of these larger oncidium types, Miltonias in some cases, I end up with 2 plants. So every time I go from 1 to 2. You know, I've just done 4 plants here. What have we ended up with? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've gone from 4 to 6, and I could have gone more. Right. So that will be part 1, the bit at the beginning, and this bit. Part 2 will be sorting these out and choosing whether any of them will be mounted, choosing their pots and pot size, important this time round for these types of plants, and the media they're going to go in and the mix. So that'll be part 2 sometime soon, probably. It might even be tomorrow, I don't know. Depends if I've got anything else on the go. Right, so see you next time.